All right, today we're talking trap bar versus barbell, which one's better for deadlifts. And before we get into this, it's my grandma's birthday today, and she watches these from the care center. So can everybody say happy 99th birthday to my grandma, Hilliard, just right, happy birthday, Virginia. Anyway, so that's kind of funny, and I'm hoping that I've never worn these shorts with this mic before, so I'm hoping my pants show up, stay up. But so we have a trap bar here. The trap bar is like a kind of a hexagonal shape. It's like a cage that you walk into versus a barbell that is straight across. If we're going to do a deadlift, we're going to sit back into our hinge, and we're going to lift the bar up off the ground. There are different things with each one of these. So you might do a deadlift inside of a trap bar. Right? Well, you can do that same thing with a barbell. Which one's better to use? I mean, this is a debate that's going on the internet, and I think that there's pros and cons to each, and we have to look at this from a logical perspective and weigh them out. Okay, so cons with conventional barbell setup, right? Well, that barbell is right in front of your knees. Okay, so it's right in front of your knees. Once we get in position, we've got to grind that shin, and then if you have really long femurs, you're going to have to reach that bar out over the top of that knee, so it gives no forgiveness to any kind of technical error. So a technical error can be a big deal. If you have really long femurs, you have really short arms, you have a really long torso maybe, this lift isn't the best lift for you. Now, when I say this, is this the best lift for you or is this not the best lift for you? I should pre-qualify that. If it's your sport, then you have to do that thing. So if you're a power lifter, you're a strongman, well, you're going to have to practice with a barbell. You're just not getting away from it. But for the rest of us that are just general population people that are trying to get strong, trying to get durable, trying to live our lives to live the experience that we want to have, then we need to look at this thing from the standpoint of which one's going to get us the most bang for our buck. You know, which one's going to have the most potential for getting us where we want to go. So if we move up to a trap bar, so the cons of a barbell are genetic. If you have a genetic predisposition to doing this well or doing this poorly, and if you do, you're going to end up going like this, lifting that bar out around your knees, putting all that pressure on your back, and doing this really bad technique. Okay, so that's not necessarily a very good thing. But one of the big pros to the barbell is that when you do get to the top, it stops my hips from going into this hyperextension. So it gives you some feedback where you can squeeze your butt and really hold it here in good position and stopping you from going forward. Whereas with the trap bar, you don't have that. The trap bar, we get in position, we can really jack our hips forward, and that's really no good, right? So one of the only con that I can really come up with the trap bar is that our hips can go forward, right? The other thing is you're going to get a little bit better. You're going to have more requirement for grip if you practice the barbell with that. It's going to have a little bit more grip, where this is a little bit more advantageous for your grip because the bar isn't rolling one direction. The shoulder is in a little bit better position on a trap bar because your hands are neutral, instead of on a barbell where usually you're going to have one hand forward, one hand back, one hand forward, one hand back like that, or you're going to have this overhand grip. If you watch enough powerlifting meets, at some point you will see somebody tear their bicep right off of the bone, and it'll just bunch up the top like a baseball. It's really nasty. They probably get the lift, but they get done and their biceps all up here. So that can be one thing that's maybe not so good about the trap bar. Or about the barbell, but just deadlifts in general, which I didn't go over at the beginning, they're posterior chain dominant. So butt, hamstrings, you're going to drive your calves into the floor pretty hard with your toes. You're going to have to really solidify a very stiff spine in order to maintain position. Your core is going to be taxed extremely hard, so building up core muscles. Your grip is going to have to become very strong to be able to handle that. The shoulder position is going to have to really, your shoulder is going to have to really suck that upper arm bone into your shoulder so it doesn't get ripped off of the body. So you've got your core, you've got your hips, you've got your hamstrings. For people that are looking for more of an aesthetic, well, if you have a stronger butt, more slender hamstring, well, the butt only grows posteriorly, it doesn't go out to the side, and your hamstring does the same thing. So it's going to create a more slim leg from an aesthetic position. And also, it's a life pattern. You know, you pick up your kids off the floor, you pick up, something else off the floor, you move things. It's one of those things that we're just going to have. So the deadlift is a very, very good thing. Also, upper trap development, really getting those shoulders and that upper back very, very strong. But when we get into the cons of this thing has no forgiveness to technique or your genetics. So one thing that I didn't go over here, the trap bar is also about 4 inches. So you can see about 4 inches up from the bottom here. So one thing that we can do, this can be good or bad. You know, if you have a really tall person that has some mobility restrictions to get down to the barbell, which will be 4 inches lower, you know, maybe we move them to a trap bar where they're 4 inches higher. They have that forgiveness of their knee to slide forward if they need to pick the bar up. So they're still getting all the benefits that we would from a barbell, but now the hips are coming back, the hips are able to come back, and the knee is able to slide forward. That half an inch can make a world of difference on your spine. So if you can let that knee slide forward slightly, all of a sudden the bar just comes up and it comes up a lot better. But you do have the ability to go into this heavy extension. Now, one of the things with the trap bar that I didn't mention is that we can flip it over. So if we really do want to get that position where we're 4 inches lower, well, we can flip it over. I'm not real good at going super low, but we can flip it over and get that extra 4 inches down below. Did I get everything? So there's less arm injuries. There's less injuries overall with the trap bar. Just far less injuries. You're going to have less arm injuries, less low back injuries with the trap bar. But at the same time, you have to be very cognizant of when you get to the top. When you get to the top of the trap bar, you don't just get to push your hips forward into the bar. You got to squeeze butt and hold. Okay, so you don't get the forgiveness at the top, but you don't get the absolute just. It forces like you have to be in perfect position down there at the bottom, and for a beginner that's going to be really, really tough. For even experienced people, that's really tough. But did I get everything here? But deadlifts are absolutely fantastic for most people. If you have, like we were talking the other day about scalene, sternocleidomastoid, upper trap problems. If you're short, like one thing to look at is your collarbones. If your collarbones sit fairly parallel to the ground, we know that we don't need to be putting deadlifts in our program. We need to be looking at getting our posterior chain exercises from other sources. But as far as the deadlift from a person who is qualified to do the deadlift, absolutely excellent exercise, fantastic. But which one are you going to choose? Are you going to choose a conventional barbell or conventional trap bar? You know, unless it's your sport, I think you should move to the trap bar. I think it's not that hard to teach people that at the top you don't put your hips forward. You know, it's just one more piece of the pie that you might have to remember. But at the same time, I think the trap bar is superior to the barbell in a conventional standpoint. The barbell is just more likely to get people injured, especially when we can get basically the same exercise with more forgiveness out of the trap bar. Anyway, please say happy birthday to my grandma. Happy birthday. And that's Friday. Thanks, guys.